In a world that's pretty much obsessed with sharing every single moment, have you ever stopped to notice the people who just don't? They're the ones who are there, but they stay off the feeds. Now, it's super easy to just label them as shy or maybe insecure, but the psychology behind that choice, oh, it is way more complex and honestly way more powerful than you might think. So, let's get into the mindset of staying unseen.
Okay, it all starts with this feeling, and I bet you've had it. You've just captured a perfect moment, right? Your finger is literally hovering over the post button. And then you get this little twist in your gut. A voice in your head just whispers, wait, why am I doing this? Some people, they just push past it and post anyway. But others, they put the phone away. That moment of hesitation, right there, that's the key to understanding this whole thing.
So, how did we get here? How did sharing something online go from being just simple fun well, to something that's loaded with all this anxiety? To really get why people are opting out, first, we've got to look at the intense performance pressure that basically defines social media today. This timeline probably looks pretty familiar. I mean, a lot of us have lived through it. Early social media was all about that genuine, kind of messy connection with friends. But as these platforms just exploded in growth, the whole focus shifted. It became this battle for popularity, a constant race for more likes, more followers. And that has led us to right now, where posting often feels less like you're expressing yourself and more like you're putting on a carefully managed performance for an audience. The psychological engine driving all of this is something called extrinsic motivation. So what does that mean? Well, it's when your actions aren't really dictated by what you truly enjoy, but by chasing some external reward, like a bunch of likes, or trying to avoid a punishment, like getting labeled cringe. It's a system that pushes us to trade our authentic selves for whatever gets the most applause. Think about this for a second. You're at a concert, you're completely lost in the music, it's amazing. Then, suddenly, it hits you. You haven't taken a picture yet. All at once, the joy of just being there is replaced by the pressure of capturing it for an audience. That's the photographer's paradox right there. The need to prove you had a good time can actually end up ruining the good time itself. So, when people decide to step away from this endless public performance, it's not a sign of weakness at all. In fact, a lot of the time, it reveals the exact opposite, a really deep sense of confidence and security in their own privacy. And psychologists have actually identified some key traits in these quiet users. They tend to have a high privacy orientation. They just really value their own mental space. They have a secure self-esteem that doesn't need a constant stream of external validation to feel good. And get this, they're not antisocial. They're energetically discerning. That's just a fancy way of saying they're really strategic about who and what gets their precious time and attention. This all really comes down to one incredibly powerful trait: having an internal locus of evaluation. It's a bit of a mouthful, but all it means is that you rely on self-validation. Your happiness doesn't ride on what other people think or how they react. It comes from inside you. You're not chasing applause because you're already anchored in your own life, judging your own success by your own standards. So ultimately, their sense of self-worth just isn't tied to how visible they are online. They aren't missing out. They're mastering themselves in private. They don't need to be seen by the crowd to feel seen and significant in their own lives. And really, isn't that the definition of true confidence? But this choice goes even deeper than personal psychology. For a lot of people, it's actually a form of quiet rebellion, a kind of philosophical stand against the digital crowd and this whole attention economy that literally profits from our insecurities. And believe it or not, a philosopher from the 19th century named Soren Kierkegaard totally saw this coming. He warned that the crowd is untruth, meaning it's a place where your own individuality gets lost in whatever happens to be popular at the moment. That warning has never been more on point. Except today, the crowd isn't just other people. It's the algorithm itself, which is literally designed to keep us hooked by feeding our insecurities. And this connects perfectly to another philosopher, Albert Camus. For him, rebellion was all about finding meaning by rejecting rules that just don't make sense. So choosing silence in this crazy attention economy, that's a totally modern form of that rebellion. It's a conscious protest, a way of taking back your independence from the whole performative machine. Now, there's another major danger that keeps people offline, and it's the trap of building what you could call a crystallized self. This is basically a static online identity that can be incredibly fragile. Just think about the difference. In the real world, our identities are fluid, they're complex. You're different with your family than you are with your coworkers, and that's totally normal. But online, every post, every like, every comment helps build this fixed, crystallized persona. And that online self is fragile. Any little deviation from your established brand can feel like you're betraying your audience and maybe even betraying yourself. This is a huge reason why so many A-list actors like Jennifer Lawrence or Scarlett Johansson stay away from social media. Their whole job is to be a blank slate, so they can transform into any character. The second an actor's online persona becomes too crystallized, think about Ryan Reynolds, for example, you're not really watching Deadpool anymore. You're watching Ryan Reynolds play Deadpool. Okay, so you might be thinking, this is interesting, but these quiet users must be a tiny minority, right? Well, the data shows something completely different. We are smack in the middle of a really significant shift in how we approach our lives online. I mean, just look at these numbers. They're pretty striking. A 2023 survey of Gen Z found that almost half, 47%, have deleted posts because they didn't get enough engagement. And a full third of them have avoided posting altogether because they're afraid of being judged. The quiet participants, they're very quickly becoming a silent majority. But this doesn't mean people are just quitting social media for good. No, instead, what we're seeing is this massive shift away from public broadcasting to what you could call private narrowcasting. This is why we see the rise of Finstas, those close friends lists, and all this ephemeral content like Instagram stories that just disappear in 24 hours. People are creating smaller, safer circles to escape the crushing pressure of the permanent public record. So what this all really points to is a new kind of power. In a culture that rewards being visible all the time, privacy becomes a form of self-control. When our memories and experiences are being harvested to feed algorithms, choosing not to post is a way to remain uncaptured, unmeasured, and ultimately unprofitable. It's basically digital self-preservation. And this leaves us with one last thought to chew on. If you've ever held on to a beautiful sunset, a private joke, or a quiet little victory just for yourself, then you already understand this impulse. You're not fading into the background. You're drawing a line in the sand. You're deciding which parts of your life are simply not for sale. So the real question is, in a world that wants to measure everything, what will you keep for yourself?